Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a women's online coach. Today, we've got an amazing woman with us. We actually have not met in person. I haven't actually had the pleasure yet to hug her, but we are Instagram friends. And you know what? Thank God for social media. We've been able to connect via this way, and here we are right now. So please welcome Ashleigh, known as the Warrior Woman Wellness. Now, Ash, before we dive into today's chat, in a short summary, can you please tell us listeners, who you are, what exactly it is that you're doing right now, and what is your favorite self-care practice and why?
So I have been in the health and fitness space, I think it's been 10 years now. I transitioned out of corporate. I was in advertising before I made the cross to the light side, so to speak. Prior to that, I grew up as a gymnast, so always very heavy sport background, very physical, always in my body. And when I was working in corporate, I had a big passion for movement still. And I realized one day that I could make money from it. So I quit my job. Became a personal trainer, was indoctrinated into the fitness industry, I think like everyone else, through, becoming a gym floor trainer, very much focusing on, I guess, like fat loss, body comp kind of stuff. And I've had a massive evolution from those days to where I am now. I guess I moved from, mainly fat loss focus to, I guess, performance and health. Then into teaching women how to heal their relationship with food and informed eating methods and intuitive eating methods. And now I'm kind of going deeper into, I guess, the mindset and the spirituality side of transformation. So different realm these days. Definitely moved to Byron Bay with my dream patches in the background and whatnot. So that's basically, I guess, a very, very short overview of like my history. And my favorite self-care practice would have to be screaming underwater, to be honest. I think we're always taught that self-care is about, calming emotion, or like it's all gentle, it's all like bubble baths, it's like movement or intuitive movement, yoga, whatever. Mine's the opposite. Mine is actually allowing all the that emotions and emotion to come up and out. I think as women from a very young age, we're taught that we're not allowed to be angry, we're allowed to be sad, we're allowed to cry, but if we're angry, we're either crazy or we're just told as little girls that it's not okay to be angry, we don't express ourselves that way. So connecting with anger is probably and allowing it to move through my body is probably one of my favorite self-care practices. It really makes me feel good.
So good. Well, you know what? I live by the beach right now, so maybe I should do more screaming underwater. But usually I'll just grab the pillow and scream.
Hello, yeah, punching it, all of it. I mean, it's just such a nice release, and then you don't feel like you're carrying that into your interactions with other people, and you don't have this like energy trapped in your system. I was finding it was making me really anxious all the time, and I've never been more relaxed since I started screaming.
So good. Well, girls, for you who are listening, who you need a little bit of, frustration out, use that underwater screaming.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So good. So what I want to do is chat a little bit more about where you've started and then where you are right now, because where you are right now is just fucking amazing. Like this whole evolution that you have, the alignment with what you're doing with women is unbelievable. So, like myself, we both started on the gym floor as personal trainers, doing the transformations for many, many, many years. Tell me about your experience around that.
So my career journey has been really symbolic of my personal journey as well. So I was finding that what was my value system at the time was where I was focusing my energy, and that's the kind of clients I was working with. So I had a history of eating disorders growing up through high school, in and out of hospital, bulimia, anorexia, all of it, binge eating. And that was a battle that I was kind of in for many, many years. I had a couple of relapses in my early 20s. And so there was a huge focus on body and aesthetics and body image, but not in the good way. So I was finding that I thought when I first got into the fitness industry, that, weight training and learning about nutrition on this other level was going to help heal me. But I think it was just a kind of like another cover for my disordered eating and my disordered body image, because I was no longer trying to be just skinny. I was also trying to be muscly and skinny. And I was also projecting that onto my clients as well, like my ideals around what a body should look like. It was always fat loss focused. It was always talking about dieting and calories and macros, because that's where my head was at. And it wasn't until I went to South America and did like a big soul journey over there. Spent some time in the jungle, spent some time in the mountains, and had a massive existential crisis where I kind of realized that I had been thinking I was helping people, but I was actually projecting my unhealed pain onto them and my unhealed wounds onto them. And it was very, very hard for me to sit with that. I cried for a very long time when I was just thinking about the potential damage that I was doing to women by telling them that they had to lose weight. Most of these women didn't need to lose weight, certainly there were some that it was beneficial for health, but there was definitely a lot of clients that I had that came to me to get shredded. And it was a lot for me to realize that I was pushing them into a mindset that I was still in myself. And so from there, I kind of decided to pivot my business and move to, a more like health focused, performance focused in the gym, as far as like the kind of goals I was setting with my clients. And that felt more aligned. There was still some remnants there of, having women adhere to certain structures, a very masculine way of doing things. Like there's still a lot of structure. There's still all this, there wasn't any kind of, message around teaching women to tune into their bodies and intuitively know what they need to do that day. It was still very structured. Even with food, there was still probably a little bit too much structure, still very masculine approach, but I was kind of getting there, you know what I mean? I wasn't still doing the same fat loss messaging and talking about abs, talking about fucking carb cycling, whatever it was, I really kind of moved away from that. So I started launching programs around informed eating. So that's the lovely cross section of, nutritional science and intuitive eating, because I feel like both of these things are probably two at the extreme end. Intuitive eating being a little bit too feminine in the sense that it's too emotional based, not really that structured, and a lot of people don't have much intuition when it comes to what their body needs, especially if they've been dieting for a long time. Like we really lose touch of what our body needs. So I feel like that method, there was so much valuable stuff there, but there is value in having some structure and foundational habits as well. So what I was teaching was this beautiful combination of masculine and feminine approaches to nutrition, which is what I find works. And that's like an informed eating approach. So applying nutritional knowledge with inherent body wisdom. So this is what I'd kind of been teaching, and it felt very aligned. It's how I do things these days. So as I'd healed my relationship with my body and my relationship with food, that was then what I began to teach as well. So everything I teach is kind of like something I've just learned. I'm always kind of bringing my current knowledge and my current evolution out into the world. When I've moved through something and I'm no longer associated with it, I can't really teach it anymore because it's not passionate. It's not something I'm really focusing on. So when I'm trying to coach it, it doesn't land. I'm kind of over it. I'm like done with that bit. So moving on. I still work on that level with women as well. Definitely in that space with food and body, about knowing how to apply enough structure, but also enough flow and pleasure.
Yeah, that balance.
Yeah. And then so my most recent evolution is probably even like one step further up the chain than that. So I've also studied NLP. I've done like an extensive amount of inner work on myself. And something I'm very, very, very passionate about is working below the surface level. So below the behavioral level, more on a belief system level, on an identity level, and like an emotional level as well. All of these things are what drive our behaviors. So I'm really now taking a step even deeper into people and working with them on the emotional drivers and the belief system factors and like the identity that drives all their behaviors. So yeah, my new offering is pretty much very, very, very mindset focused, and it's pretty cool. And again, like, this is all where my heart lies right now, is this stuff, because this is actually the deepest impact you can make with people. So very, very exciting. But yeah, I've come a long way. Very, very different journey than where I started.
I love it. It's so cool to like hear you speak about it, because it just lights you up so much from where you've started to what you're doing right now. And to be honest, mindset is a big factor for coaching, whether, you know, you're a beginner or whether, you know, you're as experienced as yourself. You need to understand the psychology of the client that you're working with, or the women or the men, because then you're just going to continue like hitting the wall if there's not much rapport or communication. So I really want to talk more about that. So you have the background of NLP, and you've done like an extensive amount of learning and integration, but what has been the biggest takeaway in doing these courses to apply it to your clients?
God, biggest takeaway. That's a really hard one to ask. I think the understanding that everything is anchored in our level of self-worth. Everything is. So essentially, we can't receive anything that we want in this world, whether that be, you know, the career, the partner, the state of health, whatever, unless we feel like we are deserving of it. We simply will not be able to receive it. And that sense of deserving comes from a sense of self-worth. So a lot of people will spin their wheels on an action-based level, trying to achieve something that they desire, but on a really deep, inherently subconscious level, they actually don't believe that they're worthy of it. So they will always find ways to sabotage. Always. So you are an energetic match for everything that you have in your life right now. And people don't understand that in order to have more, they need to become that person first, and then everything around them will change. But people are constantly looking outside of themselves, things that they need to do in order to achieve it. But it's not about doing, it's about becoming the person who corresponds with all those things, with the relationship, the job, that state of health, whatever it is. Like, that woman or man is an energetic match for that. And where everyone is right now is they're an energetic match for what they have right now. And that is all rooted in self-worth. So you can do all the things, you can buy all the programs, you can do as many squats as you want. But if you don't believe that you deserve what you want, then you'll always find a way to sabotage it.
Or even what you can do. Like, I guess, you know, with the self-worth, we can integrate that more into body composition and dieting.
Totally.
And perfect example of that.
Well, this is the thing, like, when you increase your inherent self-worth through repatterning of subconscious beliefs, all your decisions are run through a filter of your higher self. You don't make shitty food decisions all the time. You don't sabotage, because like your higher self doesn't do that. You have better skills and coping mechanisms. You don't feel defeated all the time. You don't victimize yourself. Like, that's what I do these days. And I always run my decisions, whether it be like food or training or whatever, through higher self, Ashleigh. And sometimes that's a bowl of ice cream for dinner, but it's definitely not all the time. A lot of the time it's something really nourishing. Either way, like, I don't have to think about any of it anymore. Like, as in, like, willpower doesn't exist to me anymore. All my decisions are aligned with the woman that I am wanting to be. So it's effortless. And this is the thing, is like, when you're aligned, there's no such thing as willpower. You don't need it. You're never struggling. And that was like a big thing that unlocked for me. If you're feeling like you're struggling, if it feels like you're putting in all this effort all the time, it's because you haven't yet embodied the identity of the person who has all those things. So you're like acting as if you're someone that you're not. So sometimes you have to go a bit deeper and clear the path to be able to just do those things effortlessly. But like I said, it won't feel effortless unless the path has been cleared. You've got to get rid of all those sabotaging, those limiting self-beliefs and all the crap that keeps you trapped in the loop.
When you've had a client who was self-sabotaging or wasn't acting in her higher self, what are some actions that you would help her regarding that?
So it's a really difficult one. So what I would probably do is, I do like a belief system kind of clear. We'd attach to the future self-identity, and we acknowledge who this woman is. And when I say like your higher self is not like this like amazing different version of you. It's actually just your wholeness, like who you are when you came into this earth before you got programmed that you're not good enough. Like, it's not like this like fucking Superman version of you. It's actually just you, who you are, without all the shit. You know what I mean? It's like peel back the layers. So what I would do is, I have my client connect to who that woman is at their core, like what that desire is. And then we do like a belief system collapse. So we'd figure out what the distorted beliefs are that are keeping someone trapped in a belief loop, which sabotages them, and we'd reframe them. So we collapse them, instill a new belief, and then there would be an integration action based off the new belief. So when we're instilling a new belief, we have to take action that proves to ourselves that this is who we now are.
Yeah.
So we always feel really, really weird because it's like against what they've always done. But
it's change.
It's change, it is, but it's always like you're taking the action as that part of yourself, or that whole self. So that will kind of be the process that I'd go through, is like, identifying who that is, identifying what the blocks are, clearing the blocks, reframing, and then taking aligned action.
So important to identify that, because so many of us, walk around not sure of who we are, what we want to become. We have this idea that, yes, let's say, we want to lose 10 kilos, but it's just like, why? Why do you want to lose it? What's the reason? Do you actually want to lose the weight, or are you wanting to lose it because someone on Instagram said that you need to do it? Exactly. And I really like that you mentioned that, because so many people don't know what their belief system, because of that external environment. They don't have enough time of just sitting within and going, hey, I actually love myself. I don't need to lose weight, and I can allow myself a bowl of ice cream for dinner instead of having to, count macros. So it's very interesting regarding that. And while we're talking about, people and losing weight and macros, during your journey, as you started evolving from being on the gym floor to your transformation coach to what you're doing now, how did you find that change? Like, what were the steps? What was uncomfortable about making that change for you?
And it was very uncomfortable, because I was so much in my safety of like, it's easy to get fat loss clients. Do you know how easy that is? Like, so easy. Everyone wants to lose fat. Everyone does. I just like would get on like my coaching calls, or I'd see my client in the gym, and I just feel this heaviness. I'm like, this doesn't feel good to me. It's not aligned. And so like my body always communicates to me around what's right and what's not right. And I was just like, I can't ignore this anymore. I hate having these calls about fat loss. I hate putting my client on the scale. I just like, it felt wrong. So I had to really take a leap of faith, but I'm also really big on this concept of expanders, or models of excellence. And I speak about this recently because it's been part of my new program. And these are people who, so first of all, like, I had a limiting belief that people wouldn't pay me money, or they wouldn't want me to coach them unless it was for fat loss. So I had to collapse the belief that people only valued me because I can help them lose weight. I had to collapse the belief that there aren't enough clients out there who want to go on this journey with me to support myself. So I had to completely collapse that and reframe it. So with our subconscious brain, it's not like we have to see it to believe it. We have to believe it to see it. So I had to believe that I could support myself in this new way of being before it would actually happen to me. Like, I had to have that belief. And if we don't have the proof within ourselves, because I'd never done it before, it was all new to me, I then had to seek the proof outside of myself. So I found my expanders, my models of excellence, which are other women who have done exactly that, who are like me, who my subconscious brain recognizes as being similar to me, who are leading the way in this. So I went through my Instagram, I cleared out all the people who are talking about the crap I don't want to talk about anymore. And I just started absorbing energy of these women who were like putting out body positivity messages, who are anti-diet. Like, it was kind of like more that kind of thing. There wasn't that many who were in the middle sort of, but I was like absorbing way more anti-diet material because I wanted to start like being in that energy and seeing people successful in that realm. And they were proving to me that this is actually possible. I can do this. I can support myself. This feels very aligned. This feels really like ethical for me. And so that's what I did. And then I literally had to understand that it was my ego that was keeping me safe in my little fat loss business. But my authentic self, my true whole self, is safe in this new space, because that's where I am. That's my wholeness. That's where I belong. My soul is actually safe there because that is my aligned space. So I had to kind of understand that the fear was ego-based, and it's actually, there's no fear there because that's where I belong. So I just,
that bloody bitch, I'll tell you,
ego wants
no
to keep
good.
So small, like, and you gotta like, I had to kind of you got to be kind to yourself in those moments, because like safety is how we're programmed for survival, but it's not an expansive mindset, you know what I mean? And so so that was kind of like the process of just like slowly having to change my messaging like over time. And then I just rebranded as well. Like I was just like, I don't want to, I just had to kind of just take the leap and trust that, like, when you're in alignment, and this is the best thing about it, is like, I'm going to get all bit woo-woo on here. The universe will
Let's do it.
I'm like, I
fucking love it. I've got my sage stick right here if we need a bit.
Good. I don't know how many times I've said the word energy yet, but apparently that's what happens a lot. But when you're in alignment, you will always be taken care of. You know what I mean? Like when you're on your soul path, you don't have to fucking worry about a thing. You will be abundant. Everything will flow. Like my business these days is so pleasant and easy. And like, I mean, hard work is in like, I do a lot, but it just feels so good that it's just completely different. Back then I was always like worrying about clients. I was like really stressed out about my calls. I was creating content. I was writing Instagram posts. I'm like, I was always thinking, what do people want to hear? Like, I just go, what do I want to write
what
about?
do you want? Yeah.
I don't do those polls where I'm like, what do you guys want to hear from me? Like, fuck that. It's about what I'm feeling called to share. That's it. That's what alignment is. Not constantly looking outside yourself for feedback.
And if someone's aligned with you, they're going to follow you. They're going to look at your journey as well.
Energetic match. When you're in alignment with yourself, you become a magnet. And so once I made that switch and just started believing and started realizing, like, this is my purpose, is to teach women how to become themselves, essentially, how to be who they are at their core without all that crap. Everything just flowed, and the universe provided, because I'm in alignment with my higher self. And so, that's just it.
It's so cool. And it's so important for new personal trainers coming into the industry, because, when we first started, we would just take on whoever, whenever, do the transformation. It was the thing. But I think it's a really important takeaway that you mentioned, that if you're not aligned with what exactly it is that you're wanting to do or what you believe in, it's just going to clash. You're going to hate your work. You're not going to enjoy training your clients. Your clients are just going to become more of a chore. Even content creation, like you mentioned, I can totally relate to that. I remember one night I was just in front of the computer. I'm like, what do people want to like see and hear? And I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like, yes, it is for them, but it's also for me, because if it's not making me happy, what's the point?
It's that thing around like people pleasing, like nobody responds.
Huge
energetic thing. It's like when somebody's just in their power and they're speaking from, their heart or their truth, whatever, that's really cool. Like you can pick up on the energy. But when someone's like obviously trying to do a little monkey dance to please people or get more followers or whatever, it's really obvious and it's quite repellent. And you always, again, an energetic match. The women that I want, I'll say the weirdest stuff all the time. You see what I post on my Instagram.
Yeah, I fucking love it.
But just like, I don't give a shit. I'm in my life, and the women who are magnetized towards me, like they know what they're getting and they're on my level. And it's really interesting when so before I launched this new program, I had, again, a limiting belief that I had to work through about people not being really on board with what I wanted to teach. I'd be like, I don't think anyone will like it. I think it's a bit too out there. And I was like, wait, I'm like limiting them, not myself. It's not about me. I'm like, I'm making a judgment on other women of their capability to expand and where they're at. And I'm like, but if they're in my space, then we're a match. So they're actually ready for this. And then when I launched, it was just like so many people that wanted to get involved. It was the most seamless launch I've ever had. And it's the most kind of out there program I've ever done, the most like least mainstream that I've ever done before. So it just goes to show that, when you're fully in alignment with what is good for you, people come to you naturally. It's not like you have to be out there. And whether that is fat loss or whether it is transformation or if it's something else, if it's strength, if it's nutrition, if that's what you're truly passionate about and you believe in it, then you're just going to attract the right clients. You don't have to just take on anyone. And I would just always encourage, especially women, intuition is our superpower. Men don't have this. Check in with your body. And when you're like taking on a new client, like feel into how your body feels in their energy, or when you're speaking to them, like just see what you're picking up on, the subtle signs, and like if you feel really good in them or if they feel a bit like off, don't take them on. Just don't do it. Because
in relation to that, because sorry to cut you off, but like I literally just have this conversation in terms of like intuition. I remember like when I first started, I would just take on whoever, even though they didn't get along with me. So on the topic of intuition, what's one thing that you can, advise our listeners who are becoming personal trainers, or even those who are PTs now, what are the red flags to look for? Like, how can they communicate better with themselves and their intuition?
For me, it's always very body sensations. Know that like your head will always trying to be fear-based and security-based. So your head might tell you, try and justify why you should take on this client because you want the money or whatever. It's just like the wrong energy to take on a client is out of money, completely wrong. Like you'll get bitch slapped by the universe for that one.
Law of attraction.
Yes. A good practice to just get used to is like, I'm starting to just become more body associated. So whenever you're feeling any emotion, like if I'm feeling really happy, I'll be like, oh, where does this sit with me? Where's happiness? Happiness might be here, might feel warm here or warm in my belly. I start to really get to know what certain emotions feel like in my body. If I'm angry, I'm like, where's anger? Anger's like might be in my head or my extremities, and anxiousness. And so then whenever you're in an emotional state, if you can kind of take the moment to actually associate into your body and figure, like just learn your body a little bit more and how you react to other people's energy. And even like if you're in a conversation and you're picking up a weird vibe from someone, even if it's not a client, just like tune into what's happening for you when you're picking up on someone's energy. So when you're in that situation where you've got a client who wants to work with you and you're sensing something, but your head starts convincing you to take the money and you need this and it won't be that bad, it's only twice a week, just go, where is this sitting? Like, do I feel good? Do I feel bad? And just really let your body lead you, because your body is the unconscious mind, right? So your head will just tell you whatever narrative it needs to hear in that moment to keep you in safety. And sometimes safety is money. But your body is picking up on shit that you can't run through your logical brain. So just practice getting used to feeling body sensations around certain people or emotions. Like if you're around someone you really like, just sit with how you feel in your body when you're with them. And then when you're around someone that, you don't like so much, just see where that lies. And then that way you'll just get to know yourself a little bit better on a physical level.
So cool. So fascinating. I love that. And I really admire that you do more of that work right now, because there's so many people who just don't know how to tune in. Well, women don't know how to tune into that gut intuition. And most of the time they'll just sort of like bypass it and then like just go down this rabbit hole, and it just ends up like shit. It's crazy. Have you dealt with clients like that before?
Yes, I have. I did recently as well, and I knew. And the moment I took this person on, like the conversation, I was just like, oh, like, I don't know, something didn't feel right. She was asking too many questions about trying to have me create certainty for her. Like she wanted me to guarantee what was going to happen. I'm like, I can't guarantee that. What do you mean? Like, it just doesn't sit right with me. But then my ego kicks in and I'm like, well, I can help anyone. She's obviously really got all this shit going on. I can save her. But I knew from the beginning I couldn't, because the question she was asking and the kind of certainty she was trying to create is she needed me to save her. And that's exactly what happened. She was like, we just weren't a good match, because she wasn't really ready to take responsibility. She just wanted to be told what to do. I don't do that at all. I don't tell people what to do. I give them all the tools and I guide them. But it's essentially the women who come to me are self-led, and I give them everything they need to like learn how to lead themselves. I don't do accountability. I don't do any of that shit. Like not my vibe. But yeah, so at the moment I got off the phone, I was like, I really went against myself. But then again, ego kicked in. I was like, no, it'll be fine. You've got this. This is going to be a good test for you. She's going to help you. And then I was like, no, I don't need any testing. It's not aligned, So it does happen from time to time. And, but if I'm in a coaching relationship now and it's not working for me, I'll literally have that conversation and I'll just say, hey, I just feel like we're not a good match. We're not going to get the best out of each other. Like nothing personal. It's just some people jive, some people don't, and then I recommend someone who may be able to help them. But some people are just simply not coachable, and that's not our job.
So true. Yeah,
that's not our job. It's like they need to come to that point, and part of their journey is learning that they're not coachable. And I've had that conversation as well. And it's not
it's a hard conversation to have with people and make them understand that they need to do the work themselves and not us baby feeding them by a spoon to do it.
Yes. And that's exactly why I don't ever talk about accountability in any of my coaching. I know this is big, and this is what I used to do all the time, is like sell myself as like, I'll keep you accountable and that's how you're going to get to your goal. But I think this really shoots us in the foot because it creates a codependency, right? So your client do things because not to upset you. So they might, I used to have clients who knew that we're going to jump on the scale in the gym. So they might not eat dinner the night before. And I'm like, what kind of relationship is that? Like, instead of coming to me and being like, oh, I had a terrible week with this and that, they were too scared.
Being honest.
Like, that's so bad. And obviously, like, that wasn't the energy that I was intending to give off. But when you become someone's accountability as opposed to them becoming internally accountable, and letting their values drive their decisions, then they don't know what to do when you're not around. And you create codependency, basically. And a lot of trainers, I guess, like that, because then their clients feel like they can't do well without them. Or they, you go on holidays, your client goes off the rails, and then you come back and they're like glad you're back, and it's this codependent relationship where you need them to pay your bills, but you're not doing your job because you're not actually.
It's a shit job.
If you're not teaching your client to become accountable to themselves, then you're not doing your job as a coach. So
I can totally relate to that. And I think it's a wonderful thing that once clients have finished coaching with you, they're self-dependent to do it on themselves, or they go on a different journey and do something completely different. So it's very important. I love that. So cool. Let's talk a little bit about the informed eating that you've been learning and you're integrating into your own lifestyle, but with your clients as well. Would you mind, giving our listeners a little bit of a background about that? Like, how could they go about this? Because we spoke before about the masculine and the feminine. The masculine's like counting macros, just like go, go, go. The feminine's like intuitive. And as we mentioned before, not many women know how to be in tune with the body and choose the right food. So like where did you learn? Is this something that you've integrated yourself over time, or did you study it somewhere?
So this is definitely how I eat, and I have for years. I don't think I've counted calories on macros probably in 5 years now. I was well and truly stopped it when I was still teaching it, which is why it felt kind of misaligned for me, because I was like, I don't know how people do this. It's really annoying. At one point I was obsessed, but so I learned about informed eating. I can't remember. This is a few years ago. Maybe it was through Flex Success. They did an article or something. I started looking into it. So I knew I'd learned a bit about intuitive eating at the time, but something with it didn't sit quite right with me. Like, I adopted a lot of the principles, but I also, because I come from like a, nutrition science background, or like, learned that method of like understanding calories, macros, energy balance, micros, all this kind of stuff, not considering any of that stuff, especially when working with active women, it didn't make sense to me as well. Because like I said, a lot of the women that came to me had been chronically dieting for so many years. They didn't have any intuition, and to have absolutely no structure is also not really viable for people. So you don't want to be too far in the masculine energy of when it comes to nutrition is like counting calories, macros, weighing yourself constantly, really rigid exercise, really intense exercise all the time. It's just all very structured, goal orientated, all that kind of stuff, quite rigid. Whereas the feminine, being too far in the feminine is eating purely for pleasure, like erratic eating, no structure, no consideration of like macros or micros. It's all just fully based on what you feel like, which again, not so great. So the integration of these two things is informed eating. So it's basically, applying the knowledge, but also, like I said, that body wisdom. So it was something that I started learning and realized that that's what I had been doing for a while. Is like, I have foundational nutritional habits. So like almost like non-negotiables that I meet every day, which is like a certain level of protein, but that can be whatever I want. I don't measure or weigh it. I kind of just know, and I can feel with my body when I've undereaten protein, I'll kind of realize it. Same with carbs and fats. I kind of know roughly what I need, and I eat probably like an 80 to 90% like whole foods diet, just because I feel great on it. No other reason.
I love your food. I love every time you post something on your story and I'm like, what is this? What are we eating today?
Yeah, I eat so much too. And I just allow my body to guide me. Sometimes I eat more on some days. Sometimes my appetite's not that much and I don't overthink it. I literally know, I have a good idea of what my habits are and I'm fairly consistent, but then I allow for enough flow and pleasure as well in between that. I don't eat the same stuff every day. I sometimes might, sometimes not. I allow myself to have ice cream or chocolate if I feel like it. But again, I don't feel like it super often because I'm always very nourished. So I don't get cravings as much. But if I feel like there's no shame, no guilt. And I learned a lot about this stuff through, especially like I always knew about like the rigidity and the flow, but in relation to the masculine and the feminine, it really landed with me. I learned about this through the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, which is a course that I'm just about to finish, which has been so good.
I've been doing it as well, babe. It's
so
good.
The same group as me. Oh, how good.
Yeah.
So that for me was like, you know, I'm all about the woo-woo energy stuff. So that for me, I'm like, wow, that really lands. And I can understand that, you know, the reason that women get so like have a lot of issues with like binge eating and emotional eating is when they're too far in the masculine. So that's the feminine forcing her way in. And I thought, I was like, when that came up, I was like, wow, it makes so much sense.
So much.
It was just so cool. And I was like, yeah, so this is, I feel like the most sustainable ways like we should be doing in our day-to-day lives. We can't be too much in our masculine energy all the time, nor can we be too much in our feminine energy. It doesn't work. So having it makes sense then when it comes to nutrition that we need to have that balance and know when to tap into which energy and how much of each we need as well. So so the process that I go through with women when it comes to getting them to an informed, like become a competent informed eater is we'll kind of through tracking perhaps initially, if they have like a huge aversion to it, if they have an eating disorder history, we definitely don't do it. But some women, it's more like just a getting to know your body kind of thing. We'll figure out what their requirements are. I have them all eating at maintenance to initially, because no one should be going through this process if they're not, like if they're undernourished. It just doesn't work. You have to have adequate nutrition to be able to build the skills. Because when you're hungry, everything gets fucked up. You know that. Like you can't do anything properly. We'll figure out what their basic nutritional requirements are. And then I'll get them to start doing like intermittent tracking maybe. And then whilst we're doing that, I teach them like mindful eating techniques, teach them about the hunger and fullness scale, teach them about cultivating a pleasant eating environment. We talk a lot about, we go into emotional eating stuff, like how to like cognitive behavioral therapy, techniques for dealing with emotional eating. So while we're doing this, while I'm weaning them off, they're like learning how to connect into how food feels in their body when they're eating enough, how their energy is when they're nourishing themselves, what their food looks like, and getting to really slow down while they're eating so they're not only full, but they're satisfied as well, so they don't get cravings. We move through all that stuff. And at the same time, I would be doing like a lot of belief system body image work as well to help collapse all the distorted beliefs around their body and around food and food fears and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like a staged approach where we teach the body wisdom stuff whilst moving away from all the structure. So they end up in a nice little space where they know what they need to be eating every day. Like they have that knowledge and they know what it looks like, and they have their foundational nutritional habits set, their non-negotiables every day that they've got to hit because this is what their body needs to thrive. But then so much variety and flow within that as well, so it doesn't feel restrictive and it feels enjoyable and easy and pleasurable and sustainable.
So good. And you know what? Everyone needs sustainability in their lives, because if it's something that they can't, have long-term, then like, I don't know. I just find like, what's the point? You want to learn something that you can integrate and, as you said, embody it for a long period of time, whether you're in your 30s now or, whether you're, I don't know, like 15. Well, look, let's not go that young, but, like from a young age, so that way you can teach yourself even more and even teach others. And I think that's really important for coaches as well. And, going back to the passion, like if you're more into the transformations and the macros, like, kudos for you. But if something doesn't align with you and you're wanting to go a different pathway, I think it's such a wonderful way to explore it and even practice it yourself. Because I know you've been practicing it for many, many years, and now you're actually teaching it, which is the best way. Because that's what coaches do. We learn it and then we teach it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not embodied in what you're teaching, you'll never, it just won't land. People can pick up on that. People pick up on it. And there was like, a time when, yeah, like I said, I wasn't counting macros, I wasn't doing any of that, but I was teaching it and I was really struggling. You know, my business felt very forced because I was teaching something I didn't even believe in. Like, not that I don't believe in counting macros. Obviously, it's a tool that is great.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't feel like it's a sustainable thing that people should be doing for the rest of their lives. I guess that's where it was. I wasn't instilling that, like, hey, we're using this as a tool and then we're going to learn how to not use it. It was just like, this is what we're doing. And then I would just leave people. Like when they finished up with me, they're like, okay, what now? Like, do I just
my life
or what?
Yeah.
And I was like,
please don't leave me, Ash. I want you. I need you. Like, can I sign on for like another 6 months? So again, that goes back to that codependency, them not being able to do it themselves.
And they can become codependent with MyFitnessPal as well. It's the same thing. Like, same thing. Absolutely no trust in their own ability to feed themselves. Like, just so crazy that we almost learn this information and it's so wonderful, but then it takes this nasty turn where we forget how to eat by ourselves. So it's there needs to be a pathway out of it, or people need to know how to use those tools, but also when to put those tools down and how to then connect back into their bodies and trust themselves.
100%. I totally agree with that. Before we finish up today, I want to ask you what has been the best decision so far that you've made in your life?
I think to invest in myself, and that's like a really broad one, and I mean coaches, mentors, courses, everything like that. And I mean invest in a scary level. My most recent coach, my business coach, it was an expansive investment, put it that way, and that raised my inherent self-worth by saying to myself, I'm worthy of spending this much on my own growth. Immediately, I made that money back within 2 days. And it was like a lot. But that was a sign to the universe to say, hey, I'm ready to level up. And I was rewarded immediately for that. So I think the best thing you can do, especially as a coach, is like find your mentors, find your expanders, find the people that you want to become, or you feel like you see embodying the kind of coach that you have, the kind of success that you want, who are aligned with you, and just like pay them money. Like, I know it's hard, especially when you're starting off, to think about investing, but like you can't get what you need from somebody without paying them. This is the law of reciprocity. And, you have to give in order to receive knowledge and wisdom from people. As well. So invest in yourself, and don't stop investing. You don't get one mentor coach like constantly, but you will keep expanding and growing too. So your ability to continue to invest will expand as well. But I think that's the best thing you can always do, is invest in yourself.
Yeah, forever evolving.
Doesn't stop.
Never, literally never. And especially as a coach, like the more you start learning, the more you realize, like yourself, you started more in the fitness, doing the typical like strength and transformation. And throughout this journey, you did NLP, now the Institute of Psychology, and it's more nutrition based and wellness. Like it's fucking amazing. Like you just dabble in and you just realize what it is that you're really wanting to do. So yeah, girls, for whoever's listening, invest in yourself, take that leap of faith in doing so. And whatever the amount is, just do it. Believe in yourself for,
the scarier the number, the more expansive it's going to be. You know what I mean? Like if it feels like it's cheap if it's really affordable, it's just the energetics of money, right? Like if you want to make money, you have to invest in something that kind of scares you a little bit.
Totally.
If you're still you're not expanding, you're not stretching, you're still in your little comfort zone. You might be telling yourself that you are, but I mean, it should feel a bit scary, because the people of high value obviously charge more. Yeah.
Worth more as well. Totally.
Yeah, exactly. And then you become worth more, and then you're able to charge more, and all that energy gets passed through. So
and everything aligns.
Totally. Yep.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Ash. I really had so much fun. Now, girls, for whoever enjoyed today's podcast, you're welcome to screenshot the screen, tag the Women's Fitness Academy, and tag myself, Siggy Fisher, and also Ash, and her Instagram page is Warrior Woman Wellness. Until next time, girls, I hope you stay fit, healthy, and Ash, what's the last one?
Aligned.
Yes, that's the word for the week. All right, girls, till next time.